Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro. I'm your host, Donald Wunder, and I'm joined by one of my favorite co-hosts, Simeon Rad.
Thank you for having me.
As always, I think it's really interesting to have you on this one because we got a very interesting show, one of the most anticipated shows of 2016. Marvel and Netflix keep on hitting it out of the gate with these little live-action adaptations of the comic books of the lesser Marvel characters. They got the big budget, they got the small budget, and they got the television stuff, you know, and they've done so well in the past. So now we get to Luke Cage. There's been a lot of positive vibes about this one, a lot of promotion, a lot of anticipation, and I watched it just a week before you did. You just finished it recently.
Yeah, I actually finished it this morning.
Cool. And people, if you follow me on Facebook, you probably know that I'll just put it out there. I was actually disappointed with this show, and I'm going to get into why. But for the most part, I still think it's a good show, but I was actually disappointed with a lot of things I think they bungled on. And actually, I'll give my rating at the end, but I will say now, of the 3 Marvel shows, I think this is easily the worst. I would say the least. I don't want to say the worst because that's too negative, but this is the least best. It's the same thing, but yeah, for me, Luke Cage is the least best of the 3 so far.
I'm just glad you're finally coming out of the closet with this Uncle Tom shit. It's obvious that the only reason you don't like the show because you hate your own race.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm here. Yeah, you just called me up middle of the week. Like, I need to bench watch Luke Cage before you dogpile on it. I've given alternate opinions so people know you're not the only one that hates it.
It's like me and you are swap places because, you know, I watch the DC stuff. I try to be positive and, you know, you're ultra critical. And now I feel like we swap places, you know, and now you're being ultra positive on this show. And I don't, you know, I can't even call you a wig or nothing because you don't fit that type. But, you know, do you love the black culture that much? Is that what drove you in this? But we'll get into that.
You know what? It's funny how many times I got that before, that I'm blacker than black people. I don't know what's up with that. I just think I have an appreciation for realness.
You do.
But to be fair, the show is not perfect, but I think you and I come from different places in terms of criticism. Like, I enjoyed it probably more than you did. And the things I didn't like are not related to the things you didn't like. So, lots to unpack. So let's just get to it.
Let's do it. And guys, just so you know, the reason why I wanted to tell you my overall opinion before, because this is going to be a spoiler discussion. You must have seen it. If you listen from this point onwards, we're going to spoil all the plot details because I'm going to get a lot of hate for criticizing this show because right now, most of the critical feedback is overwhelmingly positive. There's some people that are being a bit more critical than I am, but at the end of the day, guys, as always, just my opinion. I do want to explain myself and my perspective, but again, guys, it's only my opinion. I'm not the end or be or whatever. If you do have negative comments or you disagree with me, feel free to share the comments down below. But, you know, this is just me. Simon's going to make his points as well, and let's get into it. So, what I will say, I had such high expectations for this show because the promotion for this show was awesome. The little trailers they showed, I know you don't watch trailers, but the trailers, you know, using the hip-hop, old day Boston, Nas, and just seeing him.
They're getting very good at hyping these shows up. I mean, the fans nowadays are very easy anyway, because nobody apparently has anything better to do than to promote these shows for free. I don't watch trailers, but I saw the trailer for this at least 100 times.
Yeah.
From different sources, different people just keep shoving it in my face like they were personally making money off of it. I'm like, do you own the rights to the soundtrack or some shit? I didn't know you were part of Wu-Tang.
And a part of the production crew said that this is going to be Marvel's version of The Wire. I mean, you cannot give a show much. One of the greatest, most praised shows of all time. I'm not just saying that, it's not just hyperbole. One of the most praised shows of all time, a cop drama about the black community. Marvel going to do this with Luke Cage. I was so excited. And by the end of the show, I was like, I don't know. The Wire, not so much. But let me start by saying this. Luke Cage is a very thin story. If you read the first 4 comics, it's just a simple origin story made in the 60s, I think, and you know, it's very typical to how all these other superheroes got their powers. He went to prison, did some tests, blah 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 blah. He got hard skin, escaped prison, hero for hire, whatever. So they didn't have a lot to work with. And actually, my criticism with the show is not the fact that they didn't adapt the story. That doesn't matter because every change they made, I agreed with. The update they brought into modern times, the thing they even do a lot of full break and stuff. But I found overall the story honestly is a bit of a mess. They by the end of the story, I felt like this was 2 seasons compacted into one for me, and at the same time, not only is it that two different stories put into one, but there's so much filler that it's too much, and they didn't pace it well at all. So most of the show, I was like, oh, I love this, but get to the point. So much dead space with stuff. But for me, I'll just start by saying I thought the first 6 episodes were pretty strong. Then they kill off one of the main villains, and then they introduce the secondary, the big bad, and his little underlings. The replacement for him is absolutely terrible. Absolutely a terrible replacement.
Wow.
I was gutted when they replaced the first bad guy who was great, who was Cottonmouth. I thought he was very good villain. A bit over the top even for him, but the replacement for him, which turns out to be Luke Cage's brother, is so over the top. It's so badly written, and I don't even know why. Anyway, but I'll get into the bits and pieces, but the story on a whole, to me, it's a 2-bit story put together. Luke Cage carries the story for most of it, but unlike the other, like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, they have really strong villains they actually have even better actors playing the villains. Like, you've got the Kingpin before, you've got the Punisher before, you've got Elektra, and you've got on Jessica Jones, you've got obviously what's his face, mind control guy, who's played by David Tennant.
Yeah, Kilgrave.
And the actors that portray him are really strong. Now, Luke Cage, they don't have an actor that can fill that role, but Cottonmouth, the first villain they had, was very strong. And the actor that played him, I think his name is...
I got it. It's Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. He's an actor that always traditionally plays good guys, and for them to pick an actor and let him do something different, I was so impressed. I thought, wow, this guy always plays a softy guy, a really nice guy. You've seen him in like the 4400 and the Hunger Games and the Place Beyond the Pines. He always plays that soft, nice guy, but he played a fantastic antagonist, and when they killed him off, I was let down. But I've had a little ramble. I want you to speak about just your initial thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth.
Well, needless to say, I like the show a bit more. The best thing about it is the soundtrack. I'll lay that down straight away. That they were very much going for a certain vibe, 70s exploitation, kind of that old blaxploitation subgenre. They do a lot of throwbacks to it. There's a lot of banter between characters that basically takes inspiration from the same places and the same type of movies Tarantino does. Dolomite, The Human Tornado, Shaft, that era. So there's a lot of dialogue that's just not even exposition, just meant to build character about basketball, black culture, black history, music, this kind of stuff. So they nailed that. But you were absolutely right about the story, and I think part of it is not really their fault, but the thing with the pacing is that a lot of stuff happens at the wrong time. Like, you have a main villain who you're just getting to know, and you don't have time to develop the secondary villains because they're secondary, they're in the background, they're not really in the forefront yet. And then you take care of the main villain, then the mystery villain comes in, and you know nothing about him. Then he brings in the kryptonite, and suddenly it opens up more questions than it answers. So you're like, how is he doing this? What is this? Who, where, what, how? And then that takes up so much time that there's no emotional impact. Like, when you actually find out who's the main bad guy for the season, you're completely clueless, and you don't really get an explanation till 3-4 episodes later. So that's why some elements of the show feel dragged out, because the show initially opens up with so much vibe and character, and you're left with a lot of charisma and a lot of emotion rather than just flat out action. It's not very action packed. The show itself, there's not a whole lot of big budget blowout action scenes. In fact, I think they went a little bit cheap, because the final fight scene in this season, like in the last episode, that was some low budget shit, man. I mean, the main villain is wearing some sort of Chinese Iron Man suit, some sort of bargain bin stuff. So it's a direct contrast. You can't open up relying on the building many relationships between characters and then just throw that out and start from fresh. I think that's why you feel like it's 2 seasons shoved in together, because basically there's like a a clean slate for everybody halfway through.
Let me just not shit on the show, because honestly, I love a lot about the show. First of all, just like you said, the music selection is great. Now, let me just give the show this major pop. Not only is the soundtrack good, they took the time out to actually bring in actual artists in real life. You know, Raphael Sadiq, Faith Evans, Method Man, so many artists that do performances in the show that elevate the show. I was like, wow, this is fucking awesome. They have their own sets on there. The show looks good from a cinematography standpoint, apart from the fight scenes, which, just like Jessica Jones, honestly, I don't think, when you're dealing with superpowered humans, it looks kind of silly, but that didn't bother me. And actually, I preferred there was less action, because I wanted a more dramatized story about the characters. I didn't really care about the action. It was fine. It was good enough. But everything else, they got the look of the city, the look of the characters. And speaking about the characters as well, for the most part, I think everyone played their part well. I think the actors are really good.
Oh, yeah.
The two actors I didn't like. The one actor in particular I didn't like, and I just felt like she didn't hold her role enough, is Cottonmouth's cousin, the politician.
Alfre Woodward or Woodard.
Yeah, I just didn't. She never convinced me with that role. And from the point where she had to step into the main role as one of the biggest antagonists in the middle, I didn't believe her at all. She didn't. I actually, I would have, obviously, the person who plays Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad, I think she portrays that kind of energy, intensity more than she does, because she's a very kind of, I don't want to say she's wishy-washy, but even when she kind of switches into the second mode, she never convinced me. I was never convinced that she could take the role of Cottonmouth, even though she wasn't trying to, but they tried to portray her as a very conflicted character, and to me, as an actor, I didn't buy it at all. And for her to replace Cottonmouth, disappointed. The fact she killed Cottonmouth as well, that whole scene, it was meant to be a very powerful scene. I was just like, it was the first scene I was like, didn't work at all, didn't affect me at all. I was just like, you killed him, but it really let me down. She as an actress, and I'll put it on her, I wish she was cast as someone else.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Well, it kind of goes back to, they had a tough time with the material, because, Luke Cage, his main power is that he's bulletproof. You can't really hurt him. So you have the strongest villain in the beginning. He can't do anything with him. It's not up until you get the mystery villain involved where you really have somebody who's a real threat. So there's a lot of running around back and forth with, Luke Cage almost gets everybody, but you got to pan the show out. So they go to jail for a night, come out in the next episode, and we start from fresh. Yeah. So when they kill off Cottonmouth, where that episode reveals the complete backstory that he had, which was great. I thought it was. That little story, and the actor, I love that guy from House of Cards and everything. So I was really happy to see him right here in Luke Cage as the villain. So when he exits, I'm like, is he going to come back? Is this a setup for something? Or is this it? It really felt like they just swooped a rug out from underneath you, and then we go back to another reset. But I guess I can get into some of my criticisms, because like I said, I really like the vibe. I think the actors are great. Simone Missick, who plays Misty Knight, give this woman an award. Give her 3. Give her 1 award for the finest booty, a ribbon for best female lead, another ribbon for most sexiest female. I mean, I can't praise this chick enough. I mean, I love her. I love her.
I liked her as an actress, but I absolutely hated her character.
That doesn't matter. Nobody asked you. This is I know what you're gonna say. You would like some blonde hair, blue eyes. Shut up. No. But your opinion does not count.
We'll get back to her. I'll let you finish, but you go on. She's great. She is great though. But her character. Anyway, you go on.
Anyway, I'm just warming up to the criticism. Point is, all the elements were there to make a good show. Even with Luke Cage, and the comics, his main things are beating motherfuckers up and team ups, which you can't really. He's obviously gonna kick ass, but there's not another hero making a cameo, so you couldn't really do what he traditionally did in the comics. You had to come up with a lot of original material, but they had the right elements. It's just, I think why people like you are now...
People like me?
Yeah. You, exactly. Your kind.
My kind. Mutants, I hate you. You mutants, go on.
Basically, what I think, and this is true partially for me as well, in my enjoyment of it. It's what's catching up with you and why you enjoy it less is that this is the 4th Marvel Netflix on-demand show, and it's using the same damn formula. It's made the exact same way. It's the exact same story structure. You know, the first storyline wraps up 6 episodes in, then we get a bunch of other stuff introduced for the next 6 or 7 because it's 13 episodes. But somewhere along 7 and 8 episodes in, it starts dragging out, and we got a lot of repetitive storylines of the hero gets injured, so he has to go away for a while to heal up.
Like then Daredevil season 2, which is exactly what happened. You're right.
Season 1 and season 2, same formula.
I like season 1. I thought season 1 of Daredevil.
I know, but that's the formula they're just replicating. They're doing everything you already saw in Daredevil season 1. It's the same way. You know, hero gets trapped underground or gets captured, has to escape.
Yeah.
We spend some time with the villain because there's like a stalemate, so we get to know the villain's background. Then set back to, you know, ground zero, start up all over again. All the way till episode 12 and 13, where they usually pick up for the big finale. So I always thought that these shows could have been 10 episodes and would probably have better pacing, because we have such a dragged out story structure between, you know, basically episode 7 and episode 11. It really kills the vibe for the show, I think. And if this was the first show Marvel did, it wouldn't be as bad, because you would just be overwhelmed by the authenticity, that it's, you know, more violent, more serious. But because we already saw 3 seasons, technically, of Luke Cage without Luke Cage, even the new elements of the music and the vibe and the people and the culture, paying homage to Brooklyn and the blaxploitation era, don't really help, because you're still trapped in the same pattern, and you see every twist coming. You know exactly how the season's gonna end, and it's the whole season is almost completely derived of any tension.
Yeah, but my problem is, everything I'm saying is right, but my problem is with the other shows like Jessica Jones and Daredevil, when it was filler or when they're dragging it out, the side characters like what was it? Daredevil's other lawyer friend and the girl, them two were strong enough that I was interested in their side story. With Jessica, with Jessica Jones, even with her radio friend that was helping her and that stuff, that was interesting. But here, what you've got in this show is you've got the police, which are ridiculously inept. You've got Misty.
Hey, that's the most realistic element.
Well, I guess, but to this point, it's so bad. It's like, it's cartoony. And if they're not inept, they're corrupt. And Misty Knight, the only one, the main police officer you're following, she's so distrustful of Luke Cage even after sleeping with him. It makes no sense. She never gives him the benefit of the doubt through the whole of the show until the second to last episode where she said, I should have believed you. You think? He didn't do anything to earn her distrust, and it just kept on making him look like a fool. And I was like, dude, this is silly. And all the other cops are corrupt. And
really? I thought the exact opposite. I thought they were trying really, really hard to make the cops look as good as possible.
I mean, really? How did they do that?
Oh, like for instance, when he's going down the street, you know, there's a storyline where he's kind of wanted by the police because, like you said, people don't trust him. He's getting framed, and 2 cops, you know, just pull him over in a hoodie. They're not sure it's him. They went out of their way to not only make one of the cops black, but the one that shoots him only shoots him after he overwhelms the white cop, and then he shields the cop with his body. And that's the only time where the show kind of highlights that this motherfucking idiot is opening fire on an unarmed guy in broad daylight. So they really hold back on the reality. I mean, in real life,
is that a good one? You're saying it unrealistic then? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Like that, they made the cops look like you stand-up citizens in this one. Like in real life, they probably would have just opened fire without even talking to him, like we see all the time. I don't want to get into politics, but
no, you have to, because you should. Because the thing about the show is they were also saying they're going to bring those issues with the shootings with that to light in the story, and I'm dealing against that right now. But the way they handled it in this show was also pretty bad as well, and not bad in a way where they didn't address it, but it was like a mixed message. And the example being of that is this: just the same point you're making when Luke Cage is on the run and they got him wanted. There's a particular scene. This is the most bungled part of the narrative they wrote. They get this one kid. He's like, I was just going to school with my friends.
Oh yeah.
There's this black officer interrogating him. It goes so far, and he's a black officer as well. And
of course, they had to make him black. Yeah, of
I know,
course.
because that would have been too much. I'm like, they didn't want to make it too realistic. And then he ends up beating the kid. I'm like, are you telling me after a police officer who's had all this training, he ends up not even a man, he beat up a fucking kid?
Do you know there's like 50 videos of that on the internet? Like with women, teenagers getting beat up while in custody?
Yeah, I know that. I was just, and then he's a black cat. I'm like, I thought you were trying to portray if this was racism, but why are you making a black character do it to a kid?
Yeah,
this kid's not even a teenager. He's like 10 or 11 years old. He's not 14 or 15. He's
the son of one of the love interests that they established early on. I think where the problem comes from, what you're describing is that they didn't go all in. They tried to do it 50-50.
Yeah, they did.
I don't think that really works. You can't portray, racial profiling, police brutality, and racist undertones, but then go like, hey, he's also black and he's emotionally worked up because of the situation. Like, you try to keep it fair, but the whole point of Injustice is that it's not fucking fair, so you could never explain that in a fair context.
Yeah, and then they try to turn a narrative into the whole X-Men thing where, it's us against them, the superpower people. I'm like, Luke Cage is the only one in the series. How can you build a narrative about against superhero when you're only speaking about Luke Cage? It's all of them. There's no one else doing anything. It's just about Luke Cage. So how can the councilwoman try to rally, yes, we're going to get these bullets and we're going to kill... I'm like, where the fuck did that come from?
I guess because, they mention the Avengers. They don't mention them by name, but they, the green guy and the guy with the hammer, those are the names they get. I don't know if that's a legal thing. Like, technically, Netflix doesn't have the rights to those characters, so they can't mention them by name because it's trademarked or something. I'm not sure.
No, but I'm just saying it was a weak... They brought that into the series where it's just Luke Cage. If it was like the Defenders, it would make sense because there's 4 of them. But there's just Luke Cage, and then she uses that at a point. It was very messy, and they tried to mix that with the racial... My point is, it's like you said, they were half-stepping with the themes, and they mixed it with Luke Cage's story as a superhero. And to me, it was just a bit messy. I was like, I know what you're trying to do, but you're not making the point you want to make. You're just teasing it. And that, here you go, we can't do it all the way though, because that's too much. I'm like, I thought this was meant to be The Wire. I thought you said it was going to be The Wire. This ain't The Wire. This is you trying to like appease the fans and still try to be relevant, but you're not doing much of anything. Meanwhile, I'm not getting even the superhero stuff because Luke Cage is running away for 3 episodes away from his brother who hasn't even got fucking shielding. He's just got a shotgun and it doesn't even make any sense. It's like, are you serious, man? Honestly, I know people just think I'm nitpicking to hell. I just don't think it was handled very well.
I can see where you're coming from. Again, I think the general Marvel story structure has more to do with it than actually the Luke Cage as a character. I feel like that they knew they needed to put the hero on ice to get through the storyline a certain way, show the flashbacks, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Link up, set stuff up for next season by bringing in characters who could, do certain things. Professor.
Let me bring this load down because people might be getting very upset with me. Luke Cage, the character who plays Luke Cage, is good. He carried the show. His past with the prison was good. I have no problems with the actor playing Luke Cage. I have no problem
Mike Coulter, yeah. He's also Loke in Halo 5. So, yeah.
I have no problem with him. I have no problem with anything he did in the show. Nothing he did was... I have no problem with him as a character, and what they gave him to do was fine. It's just the story around him. I know you keep saying it was the Marvel, I'm getting tired, but with the other shows, I didn't feel the emptiness and the mishandledness as much as I did in this show. I just felt like all these things you could have done, you dropped the best villain halfway through. You bring in another villain who you don't explain half the shit. He's super cartoony, and he before they have their brawl in the final episode, there's a scene where he's just chasing Luke Cage through the street. I'm coming to get you with a shotgun. I'm like, this is just dumb. He fights him in like this theater. Luke Cage should have beat him, and the episode ends with him shooting him, and Luke Cage ended in a trash can compactor and running away to get his wounds healed for 3 episodes, which was just filler. And for them to come back and have another fight, a brawl, and like you said, look, I don't want to go on and on. I think you guys get the point. Call me a picky bastard all you want or whatever. I felt like, honestly, funny enough, if you trim the fat of this show, it would have been a lot better for me. But even if you do that, what's his name? Diamondback, whatever his name was.
Diamondback, yeah.
Diamondback, he's a terrible villain. The way they wrote him and the actor that played him, I like that he was in
Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah. he got slapped around by what's his name again? Chalky, whatever his name was.
He always plays like he was usually the dumb henchman. The guy you hate. The friend, yeah, the friend you don't want to have. The friend that fucks everything up for you.
Yeah, the hateable light-skinned brother who's just a fucking oaf, and he's just not a worthy villain. And you know, by the way, the way they ended the season, everybody says this. I like the fact they wanted to give you more, but it really ended on a downer. The whole show was like, well, so much unresolved. You're meant to end the show with people wanting more, but this ending to me, I was just like, well, I don't really feel a sense of accomplishment. I feel a sense of loss for the most part, because the final battle ends in the first 10 minutes of the last episode, and the rest of it is just leading. It's just really just drab. And
it's set up for the next season, basically.
Yeah, but it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't satisfying at all. You just felt like he lost. You just felt like everyone was a fool for not believing him. The police officers, you don't believe in the police at all. They're completely useless. And I just honestly felt deflated. I was like, wow, ended on a downer. It just cemented my disappointment. I was like, oh, wow. Honestly, everyone asked, why didn't Jessica Jones come in the show? They could have thrown her in. I guess they just didn't want to mix the whiteness with the black. I don't know. They should have thrown her in. She could have helped him. I don't know why they didn't. Everyone was expecting it. Honestly, it didn't really matter. I was like, well, whatever. Rosario Dawson was good as night nurse, but again, her being a love interest for Luke Cage now is a little bit confusing. And by the way, if you didn't notice, Marvel kind of...
It ain't confusing. That man is irresistible, motherfucker. You're just jealous.
No, she's fucked around with Daredevil. She's a bit... I don't like that. She's a bit of a hoe at this point. She fucked with Daredevil.
Oh, Carl, get the fuck out of here. Come on. If there was a male character banging all the superhero chicks, you would be like, that guy's fucking A. He had everybody. You're right. Okay, don't even fucking go there.
You're right. You know what? I'll call myself I have no double-standard sexist bastard I am. But yeah, you already know
the chick slept with one guy, kissed another, and you're already like, she's a hoe.
I'm gonna edit myself out. No, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna because I'm an arsehole. But I don't know.
You just need to get your ass back in the gym so you can rock them Luke Cage fucking hoodies with the bullet holes in them, man. It's a movement.
Best character Luke Cage was Method Man.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite bit, man. That was awesome.
That was dope. Method Man he dropped a dope verse. I didn't expect to see him, and he killed it, man. Let me tell you something, man. I think Luke Cage is okay. I've been shitting on the show non-stop, but they really pushed them high. When they said The Wire, I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
When I saw the trailer,
they overhyped this show.
Yeah, my headspace was in a completely different place. I was expecting the police. I hate seeing inept police to this level. Not only were they inept, but they were corrupt as fuck. And I know that's meant to be a reflection on the times. I don't know. And Misty Knight as well. She was... No, man. Honestly...
You really thought that... I actually thought they portrayed the cops pretty fair. I think they held back on a lot of things. Because they always went with, they're just trying to do their job. They're upset because it's one of their own. They're upset because they feel like they can't control Luke Cage. You know, they always gave a reason beyond, oh, it's a black guy who can defend himself. You know, which was the obvious undertone.
Yeah, I mean.
So I think they did their prep work before going into the whole police. You know, I guess.
I agree with what you're
conflict.
saying, but I want to watch a show where the cops are competent. I'm just sick of seeing police, and I'm not saying you can have those racist tones.
Watch a show that's set in Denmark.
No, I mean you could have a show that has these racist elements, but the police are not that. And there was things going on where you could clearly see, but it just was ridiculous. And if you want Misty Knight in particular, Why was she so? She just didn't want to see the facts. She didn't through the whole. It made no after she slept with him as well. It made absolutely. I'm not saying the sex should make her love him or anything like that. But she knew he was a good dude. You could see it throughout the whole show, but she just didn't want to believe it. It just made no sense. And at the end, when he was there to help her, she was like, "I should have believed you." I'm like, "Of course you should have." Because all the evidence, all the evidence with her ability to see the scene, all the evidence pointed to him not being guilty, but you kept on pushing him being guilty for no reason. It really irritated me.
You know what? Again, I think it's because if that was one episode where she's deep down, she kind of knows he's innocent, but she has to do her job, and there's these conflicting clues, and she gets to the bottom of it, and at the end of the episode, they wrap it up. It would have been fine, but because it's dragged out throughout basically the second half of the series, I think that's where deeper impact comes in. Because for me, all the shortcomings of the show are tied to some elements being noticeably weaker than others. Yeah. Like you said, the vibe, the actors, soundtrack are great. But because it's another Marvel show, it looks exactly the same way. It's shot in the same boring, digital, yellow, green color palette, over-the-shoulder shots. And I know there's a good reason for that, because these shows have to be delivered on a strict deadline. There are a lot of second and third units shooting scenes, and it has to look consistent. So you can't go too unique. And they try to throw in some inventive camera angles here and there, like the flashback scene in the church was quite cool. Yeah. And some other stuff, like there was like a drop-down shot on the dance floor when Luke Cage has his first conflict with Cottonmouth. Yeah. So those elements were cool, but there wasn't enough. Yeah. And I thought, okay, so visually the show doesn't live up to the vibe and the soundtrack. Also, you mentioned that it came off to you preachy a little bit, before we started recording.
Yeah, they monologued this, so they would over monologue. They would, even the beginning with Cottonmouth and his cousin, they would go back about, this is what I do, this is what I'm like, you guys are saying it to the audience. I get it. You guys, why are you guys having this conversation when you obviously grew up together? Why? I know you're doing it for the camera, but they overdo it. And it
was kind of a boiling point for them in their lives, because their lives were pitting them against each other, because he was all about this and she was all about the exact opposite. And I like the dialogue, but I think the reason why it comes off kind of preachy or bad, like in the second episode where Luke Cage is talking about, don't you ever call me that in front of our greatest heroes. He's giving...
It. It's all good, but they overdo it. They just overdone it. They did it again and again and again and again. They repeat. I'm like, I get it. You guys have had this conversation. They would have the same conversation over and over and over and over. I was like, dude, I get it.
It's because a lot of this stuff is shot a certain way. Like when Luke Cage is doing a speech like that, it's an over-the-shoulder shot, reverse shot, where you either see him or the person he's talking to, and there's nothing else. In comic book format, you can, do a lot of different panels that, set up the scenery, set up the location. You see a distant shot and medium shots and of the two characters on the scene. And after that, you go into the close-ups. But comic book panels, fundamentally do not complement regular compositions for TV shows and movies in terms of cinematography. So I think that's where it comes in. To get technical with it, I think because it's shot so bland, you really just see the actor preaching to you, and you feel like this isn't even dialogue, they're just preaching to me. Whereas in comics, you can draw a lot of different things that
Can I ask you? So you telling me, compared to the other two, see Jessica Jones, Daredevil, you think this is about the same? They've done it the same in all three shows. This has been no different. You didn't really feel like this was more drawn out than the other shows.
Well, to follow up what I was saying, basically, like I said, I think for this type of source material, the format should have been changed more, because it works less, and I think also that it's the fourth, it's not helping, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff they could have done with the cinematography. Like I just mentioned, there's a lot of stuff they could have done with the pacing. Overall, I thought, if this is supposed to be about Harlem and the people of Harlem, if it was more episodic, as in one story per episode, one storyline, there's a strong hip-hop theme, so they can make one episode, Brenda's got a baby, something like that. and one episode about drugs, one episode about the elderly, one episode about somebody from prison trying to get a fresh start. You know, all these different elements, and Luke Cage being the neighborhood's hero, the problem solver, kind of dealing with it. And in the background, you could have had this overarching storyline that, you know, gets more and more intense towards the end. And I think even that would have worked better because the episodes would have been more unique and would have stood on their own because they would kind of have a beginning, middle, and end and complete a story versus trying to drag these things out. So like you said, some of the relationships like between Misty Knight and Luke Cage, obviously that distrust shouldn't have been such a huge issue for so long, considering everything that's happened of the villains. You know, a lot of exposition need to be done, a lot of questions are being raised, so you aren't really emotionally invested up until all the flashback stuff happens, but that kind of feels like filler. And once you're over it, you're like, wow, I really wish more stuff would have happened 9 episodes in.
Yeah, I'm tired of shitting on the show. Honestly, this is a competent show. It really is. If it was 8 episodes, I think I would have liked it as much as I like Daredevil and Jessica Jones. And I will agree with you. This season of Luke Cage reminds me more of season 2 of Daredevil, where they had the Punisher stuff first and the Electra stuff second. I'm like, why'd you do that? So. But,
yeah, same problems as well.
Yeah,
it was great up until episode 6, and then it just became a blur.
Yeah.
Even they tried to do episodes that stand out, like the Bang Cat, but still, it was just mostly Daredevil's second unit stuntmen fighting a bunch of ninjas with no names.
Yeah,
you know, it was like nothing exciting happening.
Hey man, and I know people think, oh, you know, I should like this because I'm a black guy. And
you should.
No, look, man, I love media general. I wanted a good black show, and this is a decent show. It's a decent show, but they look. Like I said in the beginning, they didn't have a lot to work with, and every change they made, I agreed with. I just think this is a show with a hell of a lot of fat. That's all. It's a hell. If you trim the fat, you have a really good show. I still don't like Diamondback, but even with him in, and to be honest with you, the reason why he's so egregious to me, it's just honestly, he's a character they pulled from the comics. And they gave him that stupid suit at the end because it was wearing the suit. So they did that. That was them paying fan service. He was a fan service character. That's why he was so tonally different from Cottonmouth. Cottonmouth is a kingpin-ish villain for Luke Cage. This guy is taken straight from the comic books and put for your fan service pleasure. And they could have done it more seriously. And I accepted it. It was so over the top. It actually made me laugh, especially that last brawl. I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate they wanted to end on a street brawl. I was like, you trying to get street in the end? I appreciate it. But it was silly. Luke Cage should have taken this guy out, no problem. And if you see the teasers to the end, he's probably going to come back being pretty much like Luke Cage because the Doctor's going to give him superpowers as well. So that's
he's probably gonna look fucked up. That's usually how it goes. Like, they try to replicate the experiment, but something goes wrong because they don't have all the data. So the guy's like deformed. So now he's even more angry.
A Bizarro, basically.
Yeah, or Abomination, Red Skull, all that shit.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I would give it as a rating. I'd give it just a watchable, man. I don't hate the show. I really don't. It was overhyped for me by Marvel, not even by the fucking fans. By Marvel, they put a lot of good. They did a lot of good marketing for this. I was expecting the Wire version, and I saw glimpses of it. I did see glimpses of it here and there, but even if you trim everything I complained about, still wouldn't be that show. It would just be a decent superhero show. And hey, let me put it out there. Actors, good. Cinematography, good. Music, great.
Really, cinematography I thought was okay. It was kind of boring.
Yeah, but anyway, if you got anything more to say, because I really did. I didn't mean to harp on the show that much, but I thank you guys for letting me vent. And if you disagree with me, like I said in the beginning, leave a comment in the comment section down below. But that's just my opinion. I was overall disappointed, and I don't know, because some people, they are a bit racist, and some people didn't want to see all black cast, and some people were like, this is too, one thing I didn't mention, I like the fact, I know this is going to be controversial when I say this, I like the fact they use the word nigger in this show. The main reason is, if you want to be real, that's how people talk. I've been to America, that's how they talk. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but if they didn't put that in, I'm like, you can't be real, streets, 20, that's how they talk. I'm sorry. So, you want to be like The Wire? They did that in The Wire. They did that in The Shield to a point as well. I'm like, they kept it real. So it was a little bit, maybe sometimes a bit, but I like they put that in there because it was realistic. And I know people have a really funny thing about the words, but I honestly thought they need to do that. That was one decision I thought, I appreciate you did that because that's realistic to me.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's good for you to vent. You fucking jive turkey eating, race trading ass motherfucker.
He calling me Uncle Ruckus. Ah!
Yeah, exactly. You and Uncle Ruckus. You said both of y'all are sitting in the back of the bus right now.
Where's Jessica Jones? Where's my white skin girl? Ah! I want Jessica Jones. I want this Luke Cage nigga. Ah!
Yo,
fuck you, Simon. Fuck you.
Because you know I'm right. I'm not even gonna get technical again because it's obvious to me. It wasn't overhyped for me because I don't buy into the hype. I just watched the show. It was the same shit I've seen before. I really like Luke Cage. I love all the actors, especially the women. Fine ass women.
There
Whole
you
show
go.
has
There
beautiful
you go,
fucking
motherfucker.
life.
There's your little clause right there.
Just hello?
I'm still here.
Yeah. You can edit that bit, but I'll continue. So, fine ass women. Yeah. So I really enjoyed a lot of parts in this, but the formula is wearing out. So all I have is really, I'll say it's watchable as well. I recommend it just to check it out. Don't binge it because it's it drags. But all I have is requests for second season. Take more chances, switch up the formula, switch up the structure. Be more episodic, evolve more stories. Don't drag one storyline out, and make the season shorter. And please, for God's sake, I know it's difficult with a show that has such a strict deadline and so many teams working on it, but try to up the visuals a little bit, especially the action scenes. I thought, I'll say this. You said this show is the weakest out of all of them that they did so far. I thought the action was the weakest. I thought the stunt crew and some of the action scenes were far behind what we've seen before in other, Netflix Marvel shows. So step up the visuals. Make the visuals match the character of the soundtrack, and then switch up the episodes so they stand out more rather than just being one long dragged out movie. That's it.
All right. Well,
other than that, yeah, it's so good, man. I'm listening to the soundtrack tonight, so I'm happy.
Yeah, cool, man. So I'm going to leave it at that, guys. I let Simon have the last word. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Share your opinions. Most of you liked it. Let me know why you think I'm as Simon said, jive ass Uncle Tom Turkey and why I should appreciate these black shows more.
Jive turkey eating, race trading, Uncle Tom ass motherfucker.
Oh,
Get
but don't
it right.
worry. Yeah, we're going to talk about Power because everyone's been asking me to watch Power. So
Power. Yeah. That's my show, man.
Yeah,
I'm coming back for that.
We're gonna have Simon on for Power. Everyone's been even on the Empire review. If you look in the comments, someone said you need to watch Power. So Power's gonna be up sooner than later. But I need to watch the first 3 seasons. Anyway, guys, that's it. Hit the subscribe button if you want to subscribe to the content, and feel free to like I said, share your opinion. We do not have to agree, guys. I've said this 100 times. I like it when we disagree, and I like it when we conversate, but let's not get into any flame wars. So again, Simon, thanks for joining me on this one.
Thanks for having me. Glad to support your fucking race trading.
Whatever. And I'll see you guys on the next one.